It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
Hello, everybody. This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. This is show number 216, and apparently you found it, so I'm very happy that you're now listening to this show. We've had a little feed trouble. The feed is what controls you getting to see this show and all shows in your favorite podcast player. And about a week ago, after several weeks of work, we switched the website, Polaris Financial Planning, from one hosting company and platform to another one. This was because the traffic for the show and the webpage was getting high enough that my old hosting company was having trouble keeping up, which I guess is a good thing. But in the process, we broke the feed itself. So that meant the entire show for virtually everybody went dark. Now, if you were getting it straight from Spreaker, and some web casting apps were doing that themselves. They're getting it from Spreaker. So some people were still getting the show, and last week was 215. Of course, this is 216. They were still getting the show just fine, but a lot of people were not. And we had to make some changes, and we ended up deciding to go straight to the raw feed, the original feed at Spreaker. So if somehow you're listening to this directly and you haven't adjusted your podcast player, make sure you point it directly to the feed that can be found at Spreaker. If you don't know how to do that, you can, of course, send me an email, phil@Polaris Financial Planning, and I will send you the direct feed link. It should also be updated on the Facebook page and on the page, the regular homepage of the Phil Ferguson Show, or Polaris Financial Planning, forgive me. So anyway, some of that out of the way. So as of yesterday, almost every platform was working except for iTunes. And some more changes were made last night. And in the last 12 hours, more than 5,000 downloads have gone through iTunes in 12 hours. So something is working, but apparently still a lot of people can't see it. I have been told that iTunes can be notoriously slow to update for everybody. So hang in there. And of course, if you're listening to this, it probably already worked. So enough of that. Later in this show, we are going to talk to Mandisa Thomas about Black Nonbelievers, some of the challenges they face, and some of the really cool stuff that they are doing. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. Some things for the investing skeptically topics today. Again, the emails keep coming in, so I'm going to respond to some of those because people come up with great show topics or possibly things that I have not been clear on. It when you have, I guess, thousands and thousands of listeners, not necessarily everyone understands what I say. So I am going to continue to work on that to try to be more and more clear, and hopefully everyone understands, because I take that as a big responsibility. One of the questions came in, before I get to this email, I've had several listeners, and some of them are clients, that have told me that they have been approached by their current advisor or their former advisor and notified that they are going to readjust the share class, and I think we talked about this last episode. I've also had someone contact me and tell me that they received a letter from their broker, their current advisor, with one of their funds, saying that because of the new fiduciary rule in the Department of Labor, pretty soon they will lose access to important investments that they really like. It was kind of written in a scary way that the government was stepping in and taking over and making you lose access to things. And in a way, that's kind of actually true. Now, I don't want to get in all of the details of what this client was buying, but they were buying something that the brokerage firm could sell them out of their own inventory. And this can happen in many, many types of investments. For example, REITs, single issue or private placement REITs. This can happen. It can happen with the launch of a new stock. It can happen with preferred bonds or a lot of other things. And so the broker-dealer that you're working with acts as a principal, which means they're selling the shares to you from their inventory. Now, if they help underwrite that, like when Facebook came out, when they underwrote Facebook, they get paid a fee, they get paid a commission, they get paid a percentage, whatever language you want to use, to help move those shares. So when you pay $10 for a share, it doesn't mean that the brokerage firm paid $10 and now is transferring it to you for a trading commission of $20 or $70 or $120. They can make money on the spread or the difference between what they paid or what they were charged versus what they sell it to you for. So it's something that you should be aware of, but you're often not aware of it. And so if they help underwrite a stock and it's going to go to public for $10 a share, they might get them for $8 a share and sell them to you. And they're making 20-25% margin on it, a 25% spread. It doesn't affect you in that case because the stock launches for $10. Of course, they get to keep the money, and it reduces the money that goes to the company that you're investing in. So you're still even kind of hurting your own investment. But that's how they pay their bills. And there's not anything necessarily wrong with it. What the problem is that it's often not disclosed to you what they make. Another example is a private placement REIT. Often these sell for $25,000 for an individual issue or varying amounts for a REIT that has multiple properties and multiple buildings. They might make 10, 15, 20% or more, and they're selling it from their inventory because they committed to buy a certain dollar value at the beginning and got a very big discount to help this company get up and running. Under the new fiduciary rules, the advisor, and the advisor is anyone who's giving advice for a fee, and since they're collecting money, they're doing it for a fee, they're getting paid by you, they now have to disclose anything that is possibly, even theoretically, not in your best interest. So when they say that you can't buy these anymore, that's not going to be true to the best of my knowledge, and I'm willing to admit if I make a mistake here, but they'll have to disclose to you exactly what you're getting charged for and exactly how much they're making. They do not want to do that. So they may have a lot of inventory that they need to move, and even though the rule has technically started to take effect, it is not going to be fully enforced until January 1st of 2018. So if you get weird calls like that and you're not sure what to do, contact me. Let me know. And while we're on that subject, I have a letter from JP Morgan. And a year or so ago, I transferred over a new client, and they had all their investments in JP Morgan. And we did what's called a transfer in kind. And so everything moved over to their new account, but it was still invested in JP Morgan. And then we, of course, quickly liquidated because I'm not a big fan of JP Morgan's investments. And I have talked many times on the show. It's not inherently bad, but to me it is problematic if you have a company like JP Morgan holding your money as the custodian, and your advisor works for JP Morgan, and then the advisor recommends that the absolute best investments you can make are with JP Morgan mutual funds. Other companies do the same thing. I like it the same, not much there as well. It's not inherently bad, and this is one of the things where I maybe am not clear. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your ideal investment portfolio, this is something down sub 5. It's not necessarily evil like an index fund. We're going to talk about one here in a few minutes, but it can be kind of bad. So I got a letter from JP Morgan because I'm on their list now. And even though we liquidated those investments quickly, they still think that I'm one of their guys and I'm going to sell stuff for them, which I am not. But they keep sending me material. So they sent me a thing about the new upcoming fiduciary rule, and I want to read a couple samples from it to you just to see what you think about it. we're going to give this a little try here, so forgive me for this being kind of legal-easy, but I think we can get through it here. Here's the actual letter. It's 3 pages. As you know, J.P. Morgan Chase may engage in sales and marketing activities, including making available information, education, and guidance materials and other resources in connection with such activities regarding a wide variety of investment products and services that J.P. Morgan Chase sponsors and or promotes to you and your affiliates, and that may be considered or used in connection with services you provide to your retirement clients, which include a plan fiduciary, plan participant or beneficiary, IRA or IRA owner subject to Title I of ERISA or Section 4975 of the Internal Revenue Code. The purpose of this letter is to confirm J.P. Morgan Chase's understanding that J.P. Morgan Chase will not be considered an investment advisor fiduciary with respect to your retirement clients. I'm going to read that last line again. It's really important out of all this. The purpose of this letter is to confirm J.P. Morgan Chase's understanding that J.P. Morgan Chase will not be considered an investment advisor fiduciary with respect to your retirement clients. So they send this letter to me, and it says, if you don't respond within 30 days or object to this, we are going to assume everything in our relationship with you is true, which is bollocks, but whatever. I don't use them, so it doesn't matter. So the essence of what they're saying, and they go on great length in other segments and sections of that 3-page document, they can still sell things that don't qualify as fiduciary investments. They can still promote them, advertise them, market them to clients and end users. But if you, Phil Ferguson, as the advisor, happen to suggest one of these and you somehow get in trouble because you convinced somebody to buy something that was not in their best interest as a fiduciary, we're not responsible. And in the end, we are not the advisor. We make money off these products, sure, but we're not making money giving the advice. Sure, we put out pamphlets and letters and TV commercials, and we tell people to buy these things all the time, but we're not going to be held responsible. So that's the kind of stuff that's coming out, that they're covering their bases. It's not, hey, we've changed and we're now going to act in our customers' best interest. They're saying, hey, we're not responsible if they actually buy the shit that we're selling. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So another something to be on the lookout. I had someone ask me specifically about REITs, and so I'm going to read from their email here. I remember listening to a show where you said you only invest in REITs via an index rather than buying individual REIT stocks. Despite my binge listening, I don't ever remember you elaborating on this anywhere. Is it a matter of diversification, or is there some intrinsic risk with individual REITs that we should be aware of? Excellent, absolutely excellent question. Clearly, someone who's listened to a lot of the shows or is independently very intelligent. And I have said this many times, and I've gotten in trouble because of it. I have some of the absolute smartest listeners anywhere in podcasting world, and they find when I make mistakes. So I appreciate that, because in the end, it makes me better, even though I hate it. I mean, who loves making mistakes? But I don't like it. An individual REIT, usually they are sold in sizes of $25,000, is like owning one individual stock. And if you own one stock and that stock happens to be Enron, you could get wiped out. If that one specific REIT investment that you make does horribly badly, you could get wiped out. So that's one of the reasons not to buy a single issue REIT. The second thing is something that we discussed already earlier in this segment, is that often the person recommending that you buy it, and this may go away some, the person recommending it may be trying to sell out of their own inventory. So they work for a broker-dealer firm. The broker-dealer firm either helped launch this individual REIT, or they happen to have inventory of this individual REIT, and they don't want it anymore. They want you to buy it from them so they can make a bunch of money. I think that's a conflict, but that's how the industry works, at least up until now. Now they'll have to give you more disclosure documents. So if they make 10 or 15 or 20% on the front, and this thing only makes 5 or 6% per year, you could spend years owning this investment before you even break even. That's another problem. Another thing is that, again, like with individual stocks, how do you truly accurately evaluate the value of a company? It is really, really hard to do. How do you evaluate the true intrinsic value of an REIT? I don't know how to do it. I'm sure there are people that do. You as a listener, even though you're so incredibly smart, you are probably not one of those people. If you are, buy individual REITs. That's fine. And there's nothing inherently wrong with them. But if you're not fully versed on what they are and how they work, you should not buy them, period. Do not buy individual REIT issues. Do not buy private placement REIT funds. You buy a nicely managed mutual fund of REITs. I prefer an index fund. There are many companies that have them, and it's a way for you to invest in real estate and reduce, I guess, would be the right choice, some of the risks involved with that. So we're going to wrap that little segment up, but I have yet more. So we're going to go a little long on this investing skeptically. We're going to talk about annuities. And again, because of some confusion, I'm starting to adopt this thing on investment scale 1 to 10 to see how things are. And before I give you the answer on this one, I want to tell you kind of the good stuff the investor was told about this possible investment. So how this annuity works is it invests in the stock market. And this person, I'm going to make some tweaks to the story just to make it the math easy and easy for everyone to understand. You invest $500,000. If the market goes down, you will not lose a dime. And at this point, of course, the salesperson, who's getting a nice juicy commission, will tell you about 2008 where the stock market went down 37%. If you had your money in this investment for that calendar year and the stock market went down 37%, you would lose nothing. You would be even. That is true. That is a fact. That is amazing. Now, a year like 2008 doesn't come along that often, but they do happen. So this can truly provide you downside protection. They also tell you that you get upside potential. You get up to 12 months or 12% over 12 months. There is a cap of 1% per month. So the insurance company, if they're covering all of your loss, it's only fair, and of course you must understand this as an investor, that they get to take a little bit of the upside, and it all seems fair and it all seems nice. And if that was all of the details, it might even be worth considering. But with these things, there's always more details. And it's one of the things that I have problems with. Every single annuity is a different contract. It's a contract between you and the insurance company. And who do you think knows more about contracts? You or the insurance company? They have an unfair advantage in their knowledge and expectations of what's going to happen. And that can be used to take advantage of you. And this person gave me this annuity that they currently own. And this is not meant in any way to embarrass them, because I know they're a listener, or mock them. It's something that was sold to them by a professional expert salesperson. It's very, very easy to make this sound fantastic. When the market goes down, you lose nothing. When the market goes up, you do have a cap. I mean, the average year is 10%, so you could make up to 12%. And if you get a really big year, well, you do lose a little bit on the high end, but you can still do all right. And it sounds great, and I hear commercials for this stuff all the time where the radio personality will tell you little bits of information that are true and accurate. We hope, at least, that they're telling you true and accurate information, but it's not the full story. So they gave me this, and I looked at their returns for the last 12 months, and this was from October 15 to October of 16. And during that time frame, and I'm now trying to go over to where I just pulled up the data here. Yes, there it is. The S&P 500 from October 8th of 15 to October 8th of 16, the S&P 500 was up 10.37%. Now, one thing you have to be very careful about when you pull up data in a graph like this, like I just went to Google and looked up the S&P 500 index, that is what is called the price point of the index, the number that's quoted to you every day in the stock market, or if you watch Bloomberg or CNBC or something like that, or look in a newspaper. That's the price of the index. But the index also pays dividends. Now, I happen to know that the dividend rate for the S&P 500 right now is about 2%. We'll just round it. And so the price went up 10.3, and they also paid a 2% dividend. So in this 12-month period, the S&P 500 went up about 12.4%. 12.4%. So you would think, based on the previous description of the annuity, okay, I'm not going to get all of the 12.4%. I might get 12. Well, the first thing you need to understand is that the annuity that was sold to you, first of all, is based on point-to-point pricing. So the insurance company pockets 100% of all of the dividends. You're never, ever going to get any of that. If the market makes only 2%, let's say the price point is the same at the beginning and the end of the 12-month period, but it paid 4% dividends, you will still make nothing. So in this case, this insurance company called it point-to-point. Some will call it price-to-price. There's all kinds of different ways. And so you think you're investing in the S&P 500, and you kind of are, but they're going to scrape back all of the dividends right off the top. You're never going to get that. So you're paying a 2% penalty or a 2% fee on your investment on top of any other fees that you might be paying before you even get started into the details. And it just so happened during this 12-month time period in January and February of 2016, a good year and a half ago, there was a big market correction. The market went down almost 15% in about 6 weeks. So it was down considerably over the 2-month period. And so this investment, let's go through a little detail. In November, the first full month of their investment, the market went up point to point, 3.2%. The investor only gets 1. Remember, there's a 1% cap per month. And you think, okay, no problem. The next month, the market went down 0.7%, and they lost 0.7%. Fair enough. The next month, the market went down, and I say the market, the S&P 500 went down 6.9%. They lost 6.9%. I know. I'm giving you a second to ponder that. When the market goes up more than 1% in a given month, you are capped at 1%. When the market goes down 6.9%, your loss for that month is not capped. There is not a limit to your monthly loss. The next month, it's down 3.5%, you lose 3.5%. But the market smartly recovers, up 6.8% the next month, you make 1%. Up 3.5%, you make 1%. And through most of the rest of the year, the market is up month to month, and you make a percentage or a full percent of that. And then the last month, it's down 0.8%. But because the market went down more than 10% over a 2-month period, almost 11%, 12%, you lost all that 12%. So even if you made 1%, your cap, the other 9 months, your total for the year is negative. But they did say that you won't lose money over a calendar year. So in this case, this person who sent me this document, 12-month investment, made 0%, while the market was up 12.4%. So this is a classic example. And again, we talk on a scale of 1 to 10. Annuities are often down in the 1 range. This one, I'm going to give a 0. We're expanding the range 0 to 10. $500,000 investment. The S&P 500 went up over 12%, which would be a return of $60,000. And this person made nothing. The value of the protection that you're getting to avoid the big losses that might happen again, or that will happen again, is paid for by you year after year after year. So you're covering a risk, which you are. It's true. but you're covering that with an expense and a fee that is so incredibly large that you're never going to be ahead. And he actually had another page on here that showed over 3 years he's made about 12% total over 3 years. Not obviously this last year, but the previous 2 years. But over that time frame, the market, the S&P 500 with dividends was up about 54%. So with $500,000, 54%, you could have made over $250,000 on this investment in 3 years. And instead, they made about $60,000. So that's the cost of an annuity. That's another example of how some of these kinds of things work. That's why I talk about why you don't want an annuity, and unfortunately why most other people that have shows, even that focus on investment scams and ripoffs, don't go in the detail because it takes 10 minutes to explain the math to you and walk you through it. And part of me is impressed. These are very clever. I mean, this is real clever design. I appreciate clever design, and this is clever design. It is something that can be sold to you in such a way that you think it's brilliant, but yet they take all your money. And again, they make more money with your money than you make. I mean, talk about finding a great way to invest. You can make a whole bunch of profit without putting any of your own money at risk. You put someone else's money at risk. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, the added problem that this has is that to get out is a 6% penalty because this person hasn't owned it long enough, because there's a scaling down penalty by 1% every year. And to get out now is about a 6% penalty. So on the $500,000 investment or the $550,000 investment, the penalty is 6% times 5, about $30,000. And so you look at that and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to lose $30,000. That's a huge penalty. I'll wait a few more years. Well, in the last 4 years, instead of making $250,000, you made $60,000. You already lost $190,000, and now you're worried about a $30,000 penalty. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant plan. It has a penalty. People hate penalties. This is why I recommend against annuities. One last caveat. If you have a 403B, so you work for a hospital or a university or some government agency, 403B is very, very similar to a 401k. It is often called a TSA or tax sheltered annuity. I am not talking about that right here. That's totally different. Same word, totally different meaning. The third use of the word annuity that's common in investing is when you work for a company for 20 or 30 years and you could get a lump sum distribution when you retire, or an annuity. Usually it's a fixed, although it may have an adjustment for inflation. Fingers crossed, hopefully it does for you. Totally different thing. Not necessarily good, but not necessarily bad. If you ever are in the position where you're retiring and they're offering you a choice between a lump sum and or often 4 or 5 different options. It can be your life and your spouse's, joint, both, combined, either, or you can have a 5-year guaranteed payout, a 10-year guaranteed payout. They make it so complicated that you become crippled with the detail and you don't know what to do. You contact me, Phil at PolarisFinancialPlanning.com, and I can create a spreadsheet and we can walk through that, and we'll at least know the numbers, what numbers are best. But then we also have to take into account your personal situation, because it's not always about the numbers, but I always like to have the numbers and make a decision. Anywho, again, way too long. My apologies. Hopefully you enjoyed the bulk of that. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk to Mandisa.
As you get older, you just ditch certain things as you get older, and it's a pleasure to do, right? I mean, for example, right, religion is a very good example. I wouldn't be a very spiritual man, right? I don't believe in God, right? Still Catholic. Because there's nothing you can do when you're Catholic. Once you've started Catholic, frankly, there's no real way to stop being Catholic. Even not believing in God isn't regarded as sufficient reason to get out of the Catholic Church. You'd think it'd be fairly fundamental to the whole thing, but no, Catholicism, the stickiest, most adhesive religion in the world. website. You can deregister online. You can't put up your membership card in front of a priest to go, feck you, I'm out of here, and walk away. You could join the Taliban. You'd merely be regarded as a bad Catholic. I'm presuming a large chunk of you probably were raised Protestant. Give me a cheer if you had any Protestant upbringing at all. A fair few of you, right? Now, when you do the wafer thing, right, and take the hooks or whatever, it represents the body of Christ. It's a metaphor, it's a symbol of the body of Christ. Oh, not when you're Catholic. When you're Catholic, it is the body of Christ. You're supposed to actually believe that it turns into the flesh of Christ in your mouth. Nobody fully explained this to me as a child. I would have spotted the flaw relatively quickly in that. I would have gone, hang on, I might be 8, but I've eaten enough burgers, chicken McNuggets, right? Fish fingers and rashers to know there is no animal flesh in the world that jams itself to the roof of your mouth and hoovers all of the moisture out of your body until you're looking at your mother going, can I take it down with my finger? It's stuck to the roof of my mouth. And she's going, do not take it down with your finger. It's the body of Christ. Leave it where it is. They're making a show of me in the church. What is desiccating me from the inside out? Desiccated, by the way.
All right, everybody, welcome back. And of course, this is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. With me now, I have the President of Black Nonbelievers, Mandisa Thomas. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you? Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I am delighted. And I do have that right. You're still president?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been president?
Since 2011.
Okay.
One of the founders of the original organization and the organization itself. So I guess haven't been unseated yet, but I appreciate everyone's confidence in me in running Black Nonbelievers. It really means a lot.
Well, it just kind of struck me as soon as I said it. I was like, hey, I think you've been president for quite some time now. But
yes.
And I know we've met multiple times over the years, and I think you've been on the show before, right? Or something like it?
I wasn't particularly on the Phil Ferguson show. I think I was on the Pink Atheist podcast. With you and Rachel.
Yeah, that was good fun. It's one of those things I do get contacted from people who want to start up a show, and they go, gosh, how do you get to be so big so fast? And I was like, well, if you count my other 2 shows, it's been 5 years, and my activism 12 years, so it's not like I just came out of nowhere and had this show that's more successful than I expected. It's just, it kind of builds over time. But Black Nonbelievers, what do you guys got going on? I think you told me something about changes lives kind of thing. What's going on with that?
Well, that is our most recent campaign. Previously, we have been involved in the Openly Secular campaign a few years ago with the in conjunction with the Richard Dawkins Foundation. That is, I think, an initiative or entity of that. But this is our own campaign where we have our members sharing their testimonies about Black Nonbelievers as an organization. We are up to now 10 affiliates across the United States, 10 affiliate groups. The flagship group was started and is still headquartered in Atlanta. And what we do is we basically provide support for primarily Black atheists who have felt that sense of isolation, who still may feel that sense of isolation, and they're looking for community. Because oftentimes, and I think that many of us can attest to this, is that once you leave religion and the God concept behind, and you have come to terms with being an atheist, then you start wondering if there are others who feel the same way, or who can share the frustration. Many have felt that they were alone, and so the community building part became very important for us. Because especially here in Atlanta, which is a predominantly Black city, it's still very highly religious. However, I am never one to think that I'm alone in anything. I think I've been a progressive thinker for a pretty long time. However, I said there has to be more of us, and we have to start bringing out more of us so that we can not only offer each other that support that we need, we can also increase our visibility and representation within both the Black communities as well as the secular community, which was still very, very, at the time that I got involved, was still very, very underrepresented by what is considered minorities.
Right.
And so over that time, though, we have put on, we put on regular events. We are primarily an offline entity. We meet with people in person. We are pretty much a fellowship. We have events that bring people together. We try to have a lot of fun in the process, and we do a lot of outreach as far as tabling and answering any questions that people may have. And one of the things that we've been able to do is effectively help people really overcome their their apprehension. We've helped people in how to in articulating their atheism to their family members and friends, and we've helped them combat this notion, that that all Blacks are supposed to be religious. There's this extra added stigma when it comes to minority communities when you're an atheist, and we receive a lot of feedback. We received a lot of feedback about our presence as well as our commitment to our members. And so we thought it was time that we have people share their stories and people share what being means to them, and how, because we've had some members say that we've saved their lives, which was initially shocking to me, but I guess we can appreciate how what would be considered small gestures can really help people. And that has been a very, very, we just decided that it was time for those stories to be told.
I love it.
For people to, thank you. For our members to let the world know, let people know what Black Nonbelievers means to them, how we have helped them, and because that really helps us in the process.
Oh, absolutely. I was wondering if one or two of these you think really get the message across, and you have permission to share them. Would you be able to send them to me?
I do, in fact.
Because
I will.
Yes. Go ahead and send them to me. And what I can do is maybe I can play one at the very end of this whole show when it all gets put together, of course.
Oh, they're pretty much pictures of people's words. They're not video.
Well, I don't want video, but do you have audio of someone speaking?
No audio.
Okay.
We don't have any audio.
Well, maybe
and we may eventually transition to some audio.
Well, if
because
somebody,
like most organizations, we're still pretty small.
Yeah. If somebody wants to do that, or if somebody wants to speak aloud or tell their story, I'd be happy to volunteer to help record that, because I'd love to play one or two of those somewhere during my shows so people can really get the impact of how this has happened to them. So it's just an offer. I'm willing to help.
Sure.
And so that's important. And I've heard this all the time, and I don't doubt it, but maybe some of my listeners are kind of new to this idea. For me, coming out as an atheist, it was nothing, right? It was no big deal. And for some people, it's a big deal. And for some people, it's a really big deal, life-changing, and even potentially life-threatening, or at least you can lose your home and your family and stuff. Is any of that made worse by being Black?
It is, because not only do you have to face the pressure of being an atheist, we also have to deal with this idea that because religion has, or the church in the Black community has been this sustaining institution, too often to our detriment, I would argue. There is this tie, there is this emotional tie to many Blacks that it is assumed that if you reject the church, you're rejecting your culture, that you are rejecting being Black, that you're trying to be white, you're trying to be like them. And it's interesting that in times of, injustice, in the face of racism and other social justice issues, that pertain to the Black community in particular, with the church being at such a forefront, which that's kind of changing, but with the church being at the forefront, it's like, well, how can you reject this institution that saved us? And we're like, I mean, of course, it's a ridiculous notion, because there were other people involved with the process during the civil rights movement. However, the church has it's become such a enormous institution that many Blacks have dedicated themselves to, and it's like, well, you're not even seen as being part of the community anymore. And I've had someone tell me, I think you might have seen it, Phil, in Atlanta a couple of years ago. The Black woman who said she couldn't believe that as a Black woman I identified as an atheist and that I had a slave mentality.
Yeah,
so this is the type of stuff that we. Yeah.
I just didn't know how to. I still don't know how to wrap my head around that thinking for yourself is a slave mentality. Not seeing sufficient evidence to believe some miraculous claim is a slave mentality, and that bowing down to the Creator that tells you to keep in your place and you'll do better in the next life. That's not the slave mentality. I mean, I guess I'm glad you brought it up instead of me, but I always wondered, it's even reasonable for me to ask, why would you follow the religion that your masters followed? I just don't get it.
Well, there are a lot of factors that come into play with that. And remember, it wasn't just because of, it wasn't because of the critical thinking process. It was because I was standing around you white people.
Yeah,
it was because I was around you white people. And a lot of Blacks associate atheism with trying to be white, that it is a white person's thing. And many communities, many minority communities will associate being an atheist with being white, which is inherently against all Blacks.
Yeah.
Now, certainly what we do as an organization is that we address the systemic and the institutional factors that come into play here, because they can't be ignored. However, what we try to do, I know at least what I try to do, I can't speak for all Black atheists, I can't speak for all atheists in general. However, what I try to do when this question is asked, there needs to be an understanding as to why there is still a distrust of the overall collective white community. It's a historical thing, and I always challenge other Black folks and other Black atheists to learn from it. All of us need to learn from it, because there are still a lot of people who are ignorant of the history and why this is a factor. But it should also make it more understood that because of the factors that come along with, or that came along with, being enslaved in the United States, as well as facing injustice in the United States, and having an institution that, even though the doctrine is horrible, it is very horrible, and there are many Blacks that will ignore, or they don't know what's in the Bible, to the point where they are just ignorant of why, or even if they do know, they'll still choose to believe in a God. And so even with all of these factors, it must be understood why the church it really played this social role and community role in the community. And now, I think now it's to the detriment of the community. But at a time, it was really all many people had, because when the law effectively disfranchised and discriminated against Blacks, the church was there for them. And so there is this lingering distrust of what is considered to be representative of atheism. It does need to change.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it's one of those things. As you're talking, I'm just thinking to myself, in my new town in New Lenox, Illinois, I got my hair cut, and the lady that cut my hair said she was considering leaving the town of New Lenox because there's too many Hispanics.
Oh, gosh.
And my reaction was kind of like, where? Sure, I haven't seen any. I want to meet somebody that's not looking exactly like me, because when I was in Champaign, because of the University of Illinois, incredible cultural diversity, world diversity, languages, religions, restaurants. I mean, just amazing variety. And I come to New Lenox. I mean, this is the town. I didn't realize it, I guess. I should have. This is the town where everyone that has a little bit of money moves out of the suburbs just a little bit farther so that they can be completely surrounded by white folk. And so for her to say something like that, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, if this is not 99% white, I'll be stunned. And that frustrates me because I love the diversity and getting to know and meet different people. But anyway, I rant. So it's one of those things that I will also hear people say, and I've heard this some here now, that, we're kind of post-racism. So I'm assuming you wouldn't endorse that philosophy?
Oh, I absolutely wouldn't. I think the presidency of Obama brought that out for the people who thought we were post-racial. Yeah, I would say it started definitely with his presidency that it became more blatant that racism was over.
Yeah,
or that it wasn't over.
Because in my lifetime, most of the times I see it is when there's just white people around, right? That they would know not to say anything in public, officially public, but as long as it's just white people around, they'll say all kinds of crazy things, and then it's my job as well as many other people to go, hey, no, that's not appropriate. But yeah, when Obama got in office, it became public and almost, dare I say it, in some areas, acceptable again, and that's really tragic.
Yes, and for us, we knew, for most Black folks, it wasn't a surprise because even you can tell, and even in some aspects of society, when it comes to racial profiling, people don't like to think it exists. It does. For a disproportionate number of minority or communities that are considered Black, Hispanic, or Latino. There is a disproportionate number of people who are at a disadvantage. And a lot of it is due to the systemic aspects of being in the United States. And I think and I would say too that, the fact that there are more white people on welfare hasn't been lost on me. I think in the Midwest, which is so very interesting about many Trump supporters, because I think that they voted against their best interests. So many of these programs that actually benefit them may be taken away. But unfortunately, when it comes to, again, certain aspects and certain perceptions and what is being said, certainly racism has not gone away. Even you can, when we are asked about, well, why do we need Black groups, Black secular groups? Whenever I'm asked that by someone white, I take a look at their friends list. Like, for example, if I'm on Facebook, I'll take a look at their friends list. And if I see that everyone on there is white, then I'll say, well, you know what? I get it. It's something that you've never had to think about or something that you've never had to encounter. Now, does that necessarily make them racist? No. However, does it make them, I'm sure our presence may make them uncomfortable because they like to think that we're post-racial or that we don't have to do these things, which isn't true. Because even if they don't have to think about it, that we do. And so I remember hearing someone say a long time ago about the definition of privilege. Privilege is something that you don't have to think about. And there are many white atheists and other white people who don't have to think about certain things the way we do. Or, and even as Black folks, there might be certain things that we don't have to think about what the Hispanic community goes through and other communities go through. Right. So, I try to, see things objectively across the board. However, there are many whites who are afforded that privilege that they don't have to.
Yeah, I know I'm I'm guilty of that often, and I just try my best to get past it and recognize it and do better. If you don't mind, I want to switch to something fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are having a convention on a boat?
Yes, we are having our first annual convention at sea in November. One of the main premises of one of the main reasons for starting Black Nonbelievers in particular is was to try to give people a chance to get a new lease on life, even if it's through social means. You have so many people who were robbed of a lot of their time and a lot of their money because they belong to a church. Most churches, they don't do these types of outings. You're not supposed to live life for yourself. You're supposed to be living life to, serve your God or at some level of service. And so people don't have the opportunity. There are many people who haven't traveled. They haven't traveled outside the United States. They haven't, or it's been a long time since they've done something fun for themselves. And so one of the things we try to base a lot of our events around trying to get people to open themselves up and just, and just to enjoy life and looking at things from a different perspective. And for example, we usually have an annual Halloween party. One of our members, for the first time ever, and she's in her 50s, going on 60s. That was the first time she ever dressed up for Halloween and dressed up in a costume and had fun with it, because she was always taught that Halloween was the devil's holiday and you're not supposed to enjoy it. And so these are the people that we are trying to reach, the ones who are working on once they leave the church and once they leave religion, that they're trying to get a new lease on life. And that's what we try to get people to do. And cruises are so much fun to do that. And it's right after Thanksgiving. I'm definitely looking forward to that. We have some of our heavy hitters that many people know within the Black secular, segment of the community. And we're very, very happy to feature them. And we're going to have a really, really good time.
And where does this cruise start and where does it go?
Well, it's sailing out of Miami and it's going to Turks and Caicos, the Dominican Republic, and I think it's called, Grand Turk Island, Turks and Caicos, Dominican Republic. And then it's a short cruise. It's about 5 days and 4 nights. Because we wanted to try to give people the feel for if they had never been on a cruise before, then we wanted to make sure that they wouldn't be out too long to the point where it might cause anxiety. Because I know some people may get seasick, or they may have a fear of being on the water for too long. So we decided to start with a short one. And then there's going to be excursions. I think there's snorkeling. All types of stuff when we land at the ports. So,
now, I have a stupid question for you.
Mm-hmm.
My show, I'm assuming, is my listener base is very white.
Mm-hmm.
If they're listening and think this sounds like a lot of fun, like I think it sounds like a lot of fun, are they okay to sign up and go party with you guys? Or are they supposed to be black?
We have white folks that are coming on our cruise.
Oh, excellent.
And also, at our 5th anniversary celebration last year, we were happy to feature folks like Darrell Ray out of Kansas City, Missouri. Darrell Ray has always been a big supporter of Black Nonbelievers. He's always been a really good ally. I'm one of the volunteers for Recovering from Religion. So one of the other premises of our organization is, again, to increase visibility within the secular community, which means working along with the other secular and atheist organizations. Because a lot of our missions do mirror each other. There are a lot of things that we can learn from each other when it comes to recovering from religion and trying to find a new lease on life. I think one of the things that was good for me to find out about the community is that there are organizations that have different focuses, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You have some organizations that are, you have American Atheists who are primarily focused on church and state separation. You have the Secular Coalition for America that is, they're the lobby wing of the secular community. And then you have other organizations that are based on science education. And then you also have organizations that are more about advocacy, like community building and support. And so there are so many things that issues that intersect. But I think the overall community had kind of gotten lost on, well, we're just all atheists and we should just promote science and that's it. Well, that's not everyone's existence. And also to see a group like Black Nonbelievers doesn't mean that, we're not an anti-white group. We make sure that, of course, those who understand or who are who want to understand what we go through, everyone, we qualify everyone, including some Black folks, and they might get mad at me if I say that on the show, but I don't care. But, yeah, there are white folks that are more than welcome to come and cruise with us. We welcome it. And I say all of that to say that we've always been very inclusive and always about being informative and about, reciprocating support and reciprocating being allies.
Yeah. And that is fantastic. And of course, I'm going to have to check my calendar and see if I can fit in a cruise, because it sounds like that would be a whole lot of fun. So we've got that going on. And of course, you guys are doing some crazy fundraiser. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yes, we have a matching donation drive in the amount of $3,000 by a very generous supporter who I'm not sure if he's comfortable with me saying his name on the show, but
I'm sure they'll be okay. They'll be fine.
Yes. So the Phil Ferguson from the Phil Ferguson Show has presented a $3,000 matching donation for Black Nonbelievers, which is very much appreciated. And so at this time, we've presented it in conjunction with the new Being Changes Lives campaign, because one of the things that I often wonder, or I often become concerned about, is that perhaps I become concerned that we don't necessarily talk about the things that other Black groups are expected to discuss. And we've received some pushback from some other individuals that perhaps we aren't always focused on financially supporting people who are at a disadvantage, like disadvantaged communities. However, I take some comfort in knowing that the members of our organization and the people who support us really understand that what we do is very important, that building that community. And part of that does include so financially contributing to certain initiatives. We contribute to a scholarship fund every year. And we also contribute to individual members and some of their projects and initiatives. So we do all of that. However, I think with the Being Changes Lives campaign, what it will show is how many people really, really do appreciate and the support that we provide, what we've been able to build and how we've been able to grow from one group in Atlanta to now 10 across the United States. And we hope to do even more, because bringing people together offline and increasing our numbers is extremely important. Because I think that once people work on those internal issues, especially overcoming religion, then they're able to focus on other things. And I'm very, very happy to know that we've been a part of that progression, that there are many people who felt like they would not have been connected to others and to a broader community if it wasn't for us. And so that's something that needs to be continued. It's something that needs to be supported, because it takes a lot of work. Many people don't understand that organizing takes a lot of work, and to do it continuously, month in and month out, well after the fanfare has worn off, can be very, very daunting, and it just doesn't happen magically. So the support is needed for us to continue the work that we do, because it is work.
Now, where do people go to donate money? How do they find the place to go?
They can first and absolutely go to our website at blacknonbelievers.org. They can also find us on Facebook. We have a public page, Black Nonbelievers Inc., which has the link to the Be in Changes Lives campaign, as well as the matching donation fund, the matching donation link. They can click on it through that. And we're also available on Meetup. I'm not sure if I put it on Meetup, but definitely our website, Facebook, as well as Twitter. We are on Twitter at capital B, capital N, Nonbelievers, B Nonbelievers. So the information has been posted there as well. So there are a few places that they can find if they want to submit an entry for the campaign, as well as donate to it.
Oh, I love it. So go to blacknonbelievers.org, and it looks like about halfway down on the right, there's an orange donate button. Is that what we're talking about?
That there should be a blog post that's if you go to our blog section, and I have to put it on the front page.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to put it on the front page there. I can certainly put it on that donate tab too. Yeah, they can. Yep, they'll be able to find it there. They'll be able to find it. They click donate. I will be fixing that right now as we speak.
Because I want my listeners to understand. So we're talking real money here, folks. I mean, I do pretty well, but $3,000 is a lot. But I think it's a good investment. So I do want you to go to the Black Nonbelievers webpage, and I want you to find the donate button. And in the vernacular of giving money, I don't want you to give money until it feels good. I want you to give money until it hurts. So I want you to make a difference, and whether it's $10 for you or $500, or maybe someone can do the whole $3,000.
That would be awesome.
Once they get to $3,000, I'm going to match it, and so that's a lot of money for a small organization. And you've already started raising money now, I understand.
Yes, we are close to 25% funded for the matching donation fund. And I'm very, very happy about that. It always does my heart good because it really, really helps a lot. And me, I always feel so bad asking for money, which I shouldn't, because it isn't like it's we're not just, using it for frivolous purposes. It really is to help the organization. And plus the donations are tax deductible. We're a 501c3 organization. So people can feel good about contributing to us and knowing that their dollars are going towards a very, very good purpose.
Well, I love it. And I've done these from time to time on the show, but I had a little break because I was moving and I wanted to make sure everything settled out in my life. But it's now kind of my summer of giving. So we've helped out Aaron Ra with his Senate campaign. We've started a match with Camp Quest, and I think they've already met it. If not, they're really close. And now we've got Black Nonbelievers.
Awesome.
And then in a few weeks, I'm going to announce another one. But I don't want to take from your glory. Today is about you. So listeners, if you've not given to something, and I really would encourage people to give 10%, but you don't have to. This is not the church. I do give 10% of my gross company revenue, and this is one of those pieces. So please make me pay, make me donate, make it hurt, right?
Yes.
Encourage me to give this match. Go to Black Nonbelievers and donate. What else you got coming up?
Well, we also have, I'll be tabling at the Secular Student Alliance's annual conference in Columbus in July.
Excellent.
I will be hosting the Secular Awards Dinner in D.C. next week on June 14th and attending the lobby day for Secular Coalition for America. And I will be speaking and will be tabling at the American Atheist Convention in August.
Yep, I will be there for that. I figured any convention that can schedule a total solar eclipse for my benefit, I have to go.
Absolutely. If I could go back to the point that you made about audio recording some of the testimonies, if the members don't mind, I can certainly help record them, or I can certainly read them to be used. But I would like to read one for the show, if you don't mind.
Oh, please do. Go ahead.
Yes, this was one that we received yesterday on June 7th that really, really tugged at my heart. It says, "Most days I want to die. I've struggled with suicide and low self-worth for most of my life. One day I got up the courage to tell my dad about the first man to touch me. The next day I watched him shake that man's hand in church. Every pain I had to pray away with no relief. My father, his mother, his brother, and both sisters are ministers. I've always been different and searched relentlessly for people who looked and felt like me. Then I found BN. I love how inclusive you are. You let people discover themselves and encourage us on this journey to be free of religion, aka bondage. The connections alone are worth being a part of your organization. Never go away, please."
Oh, that's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you guys are indeed changing lives. Is there any other things that we have not put in that you want to cover?
At this time, if I could just gloat just a little bit.
Yes, please.
We have been featured previously on CBS Sunday Morning. This was 2 years ago in conjunction with the Openly Secular campaign. We were featured. I was a featured writer on CNN.com. I wrote an op-ed piece called Confessions of a Black Atheist. And so we've been instrumental in getting people not only to share their testimonies like this for our own campaign, but our members have contributed to other documentaries, literature, and such that speaks to the Black atheist experience. So the information is out there, and I'm very, very proud of what we've done as an organization and what we continue to do. And
absolutely,
it certainly is.
I'm so sorry. How can people reach you?
You can reach me at Mandisa at blacknonbelievers.org. There's a contact us link on our website. I answer all correspondence personally. And so if anyone wants to reach out to me for anything, for any reason, they are certainly welcome.
Could someone who's organizing a small or local or regional conference that is looking to diversify their speaker list, would they contact you? Would you help them find somebody that could share their experience?
I sure will.
Excellent.
Sure will. We have contributed many of the Black speakers at the Secular Student Alliance's conference this year have come from recommendations from me.
Excellent. Well, I am delighted to know you. I'm delighted all the work that you and many, many other people do with Black Nonbelievers. That's why I'm so proud to donate some money and support what you guys do. And Mandisa, thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me, Phil. It was a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
But there was one performance this year that stunned me. It sank its hooks in my heart. Not because it was good. There was nothing good about it. But it was effective and it did its job. It made its intended audience laugh and show their teeth. It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life. And this instinct to humiliate, when it's modeled by someone in the public platform, by someone powerful. It filters down into everybody's life because it kind of gives permission for other people to do the same thing. Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose. Okay, go up with that thing. Okay, this brings me to the press. We need the principled press to hold power to account, to call them on the carpet for every outrage.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. And again, we're over the hour. I don't know if that's ever going to happen again, but we'll try. Trying to keep the show short. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed hearing from Mandisa. Once again, Black Nonbelievers. You just Google it, Black Nonbelievers, and you're going to find their website. But it's blacknonbelievers.wordpress.com. And you go on there on the right side. There's a bar, sub-menu, whatever. You go about, one full screen down, and you'll see a nice yellow golden donate button. Go there, give them a few bucks. I'm on the hook to match up to $3,000. So please go give to them, promote the work that they're doing. It is something that is really important to me, and I do have a lot of people that will contact me, and I will give them some suggestions, point them in the right direction. And often they say, Phil, how much for your time? I want to pay you. That's my way of giving back. That's my community service. I want to help people. And amazingly, that's how I started this whole thing 21, 22 years ago, whatever it was. Just started helping people. And some people said they wanted to pay me. And I set up a process for them to do that. But if you just have a question or two and we talk for a while, I'm not going to charge you. I may have trouble fitting you into my schedule, but I'm not going to charge you. But if you still feel bad about it, and maybe you should, go donate somewhere. It's something that I've talked about for 10, 12 years now when I had a blog back years ago. Donate, donate, donate. It's really important that money is involved in this process. Religions collect huge amounts of money, and the secular movement not collect huge amounts of money. I guess they're afraid to ask. I'm not. Donate some money. Donate to Black Nonbelievers. That's the show this week, and maybe I'll even mention it again next week. I want to make sure they collect the $3,000 so I can match it. Both of the platforms, Stitcher and iTunes, don't have any reviews this week. Probably iTunes because no one could find the freaking show. So my apologies again for that. Hopefully we'll have some wonderful reviews I can read you next week. And again, we've got a lot of summer and fall conferences coming up, and I'd love to see you there. Please feel free to come up and say hello. Until then, ciao.